Welcome back everybody. It has been quite a while, but hey, we're back and ready to go. So in this video, I'll be featuring some Pokemon Go PvP battles where I just recently went on a 7-0 run in the Forge Cup against some of the best battlers in the world. This was in a tournament hosted by Nova, of which is a fantastic server whose tournaments are run through the Silph Arena. For those of you who don't know what the Silph Arena is, let me give a quick rundown of how it works. Battles are done in a show 6 pick 3 format, where you make a team of 6 Pokemon, show that team of 6 to your opponent, and then from that you choose or pick 3 of them to bring into battle with you that you think would best be able to beat your opponent's team. You face your opponent 3 times, or if you win at least 2 of them, you take the match. The team of 6 Pokemon that you make are based on the certain metas and restrictions that Silph changes monthly to allow for new and fresh tournaments. Alright, that's it. Let's hop into the battles. Getting into the first battle, I lead Lurantis into Noctowl. Terrible matchup for me. I'm getting immediately switches to my Galvantula, and unfortunately, I'm met by Quagsire. So this is like a worst case scenario, because no matter what I do, I'm not going to be able to take switch. So instead, I'm going to take this out to the 2 shield, throw lunge after lunge, and apply debuff after debuff. That way, when my Lurantis comes back in, I can just commit to the hard farm down and load up on a ton of energy. So I throw one more volt switch, fire off my second lunge. This should be getting the first shield from the Quagsire, of which it does. They're going to load up on more energy, and they're going to fire off their second Stone Edge, which will in turn get my second shield. So I'm going to throw another volt switch again, fire off my third lunge, get their final shield, and at this point the Quagsire will outpace me to the next Stone Edge, which they do right here. So unfortunately this will be taking out my Galvantula. I'm just going to bring in my Lurantis and commit to the Fury Cutter down, and hopefully they don't get to another move, but they do. But the good news, because they're triple debuffed, the Stone Edge isn't going to do much damage at all. Lurantis easily takes it and farm dusts down right away. I switch out into Stunfisk immediately, and it's very important that I switch out immediately so I can get a mudshot advantage against whatever they have in the back. It's Greedent, and this is okay because it's a pretty neutral matchup. I just need to make sure I throw with good timing, and if you notice, I let them throw their Body Slam first because we were desynced a little bit from their swap in, and I wanted to get our fast moves realigned. So I throw one more Mudshot there, fire off my second Discharge. This will be bringing the Greedent into a range where a third Discharge will take it out. And because I got that Mudshot advantage in the beginning, I will outpace the Greedent to this third Discharge, of which is taking it out. And that's huge because I will also outpace the Noctowl to a 4th Discharge, as they'll have to throw a Shadow Ball to take me out because the Sky Attack won't do enough. 4th Discharge coming through, gets big chip damage on the Noctowl, and it ends up being a CMP tie, which is perfect for me. It ends up just being the Sky Attack, so it doesn't take me out, and I swap right back into my Lurantis and load up to the double Superpower. First Superpower will be doing good chip damage, and second Superpower will be taking it out. And if you notice, hard countered on the lead, hard countered on the switch, and just because I was able to manage my energy correctly, we were able to win that match. Getting into the second battle, I lead Galvantula into Noctowl. Fantastic lead for me, and my opponent's going to immediately switch into the Greedent. So right here, I'm actually going to stay in and throw a lunge and then dip into my Rangaroo. So I'm expecting them to have Quagsire in the back, and they're trying to bait out my Lurantis with the Greedent, and I don't want that to happen. So lunge coming through, I'm going to apply that debuff, I'm going to swap straight into my Rangaroo, and because of that lunge debuff, I should be able to survive 2 crunches and just commit to the Confusion down. First crunch coming through, easy tank, but unfortunately they do get the debuff. So I'm going to apply my first shield, get a little scared that this crunch may take me out, and farm down the Greedent, waiting to see what they come back in with. It is the Quagsire, so I'm going to throw off my Psychic, not expecting them to shield it, as a Leaf Blade would be basically one-shotting it. They don't, and I do get the Psychic debuff, so this allows me to go for the Foul Play to take out the Quagsire, forcing them to shield if they want to keep it alive, which they do. They're going to load up on tons of energy, and now they're going to be firing off a Stone Edge at my Rangaroo. I'm going to let it go. Need to save my shield for the back end. Now I'm going to come in with their Lurantis and commit to the Fury Cutter farm down just like that first game. Quagsire's throwing off a Stone Edge. I'm going to let this go as Lurantis does tank it as well. and they're going to swap instantly into their Noctowl, and I'll throw a superpower and dip to get some nice chip damage off. In comes my Galvantula. I'm going to throw 2 Volt Switches and then the lunge here. This is a very safe bait because the Noctowl essentially has the shield since it's their only healthy Pokemon remaining. They do commit the shield, I get that attack debuff. They do deny my Volt Switch, and that's pretty big here because if you notice, I commit the shield on Sky Attack thinking I'll be able to get to my next charge move, but I don't. The Noctowl outpaces me, being able to take out my Galvantula. In comes my Lurantis. Do I get to the superpower in time? I do. This is going to be taking out the Noctowl, and now it's just a race of Fury Cutter versus Mudshot. Who's going to win it? Fury Cutter does, and we take game 2 as well. GG's. Getting into the third match, I lead Lurantis into Muck. Terrible lead for me. I can immediately swap into my Galv, and my Galv is met by Greedent. I'm going to throw this lunge right away, apply that ever important debuff, and the Greedent is going to respawn by spamming off these body slams. First one coming through. I am going to shield it, hoping that I can get to a second lunge before they reach a second body slam. Almost there. The Greedent, unfortunately, Greedent outpaces, is going to be throwing off their second body slam. I'm going to let this go. I want to commit my shield somewhere else in the back end. So I throw 2 more Volt Switches for good timing, fire off another lunge, and this is either going to take out the Greedent for switch or get a shield. It does take it out, and that's great because now I get to align my Stunfisk on the Muck. I throw 1 more lunge, go straight for the discharge, not expecting them to shield, because at this point I'm pretty sure they realize I do have the Stunfisk in the back, but they do commit the shield, farm down, and at this point I'm going to bring in my Stunfisk to wall the Muck. The Muck will be throwing off a Dark Pulse here, not going to do too much damage, and they're going to swap immediately into Noctowl. So at this point I realize that the Stunfisk is going to be my win condition, so I need to commit my shield with the Stunfisk and keep it as healthy as I can. I load up to energy, count to 8, and switch, trying to catch the Shadow Ball, and we do. That's pretty big because Lurantis has pretty much no play here, so using it as a damage sponge is what I needed to do. I'm going to farm up, throw my superpower on what is hopefully a CMP tie if they decide to throw the Sky Attack, but my opponent wisely commits the farm down, and here I make a big mistake. I try and get to another superpower when I could have just thrown a Leaf Blade. I'm pretty sure Leaf Blade would have taken the Noctowl out right there. And because I don't throw the Leaf Blade, my Stunfisk isn't going to be able to clean up in the back, and I will lose the battle. So very well played to my opponent, but fortunately for me, because I won the first 2 battles, I do win the overall match and move on to my next opponent. You will be seeing me run this Galvantula Stunfisk core a lot throughout these battles. The double electric is just way too strong given the limited number of ground types in this meta. Anyways, heading into the first game against my next opponent, I lead Lurantis into Galvantula. Bad lead, and I'm going to go into the mirror. I'm going to load up, throw a lunge as soon as I get it, and they catch onto the Quagsire. Unlike the other matchup against the Quagsire that you guys saw at the start, I will be able to take switch advantage in this one if I want to, given that they gave me a full lunge head start. I'm going to be throwing my second lunge here against the Quagsire. They let that one go too, which is great, because all I need to do is just shield up this Stone Edge, and I will be able to take their Quagsire out. I do throw my third lunge right here, because they would have reached another Stone Edge, and I don't want to have to commit my second shield. They let it go, which is great, and come back in with their own Galv. Right here, I could have shielded it, thrown a lunge, and then come in my Stunfisk, but I decided to let it go, wanting to save a shield in the back and not go down 2 shields. So I bring in my Stunfisk, they immediately swap it to the Rangaroo, and I respawn with Lurantis. This is a pretty good matchup for Lurantis just because it significantly outpaces the Rangaroo to these charge moves. Rangaroo is going to be throwing off a foul play. I know I do survive this, so I'm going to let it go, and I'm going to throw my second Leaf Blade right before their confusion takes me out. I'm expecting to get the shield from the Rangaroo right here, and surprisingly enough, they let it go, and that's great because even though the Galv has a shield advantage over my Stunfisk, Stunfisk is just such a hard wall to it, with triple resisting the Volt Switches and lunge not doing much damage, that I should be able to take this match. So I throw off a Mud Bomb. My opponent correctly shields it, as the subsequent Mud Bombs will be doing less due to the lunge debuff. Firing off their second lunge, I will be throwing a Mud Bomb in return, most likely getting their final shield, which it does. And now here, I need to commit my final shield, as this lunge will take me out. And from here on out, I just need to throw good timing, which I do. And my opponent should be 1 volt switch away from their next lunge. And since I get to my Mud Bomb in 1 mud shot, I do outpace, and I'll take the first game. Getting into the second battle against my opponent, I lead Galvantula into another Quagsire. My Galvantula seems to be attracting all the Quagsires today. So I'm going to swap into my Oranguru and load up on energy, and counting their mud shots, the Quagsire through 7. So this is only enough for Stone Edge. Oranguru easily takes that, and they come in on the Oranguru mirror. You'll see that I got a little bit of stutter lag there. Kind of unfortunate, but it's okay, because I'm going to get this foul play off for some nice damage, and they'll be throwing back a foul play of their own. I am going to shield it, because I know that I will be able to get a shield of theirs. I do get the deny, which is fortunate for me, because my Oranguru has a high attack IVs, so I should win CMP. But I get that weird stutter lag again, allowing them to get to the move first, forcing me to burn my second shield so I don't waste all this energy. I'm going to commit to the farm down, but I get worried that a second confusion would take me out. I might have lived it, but I decided to play it safe by throwing this foul play at their Oranguru instead. And now I get the alignment that I want as a Noctowl comes in. So I get to place my Galvantula on the Noctowl and Lurantis on the Quagsire. So this is looking pretty good for me. I don't throw immediately there. Kind of a bit of a mistake, as I would have been able to take it out with a discharge, but that's fine. I store my discharge and swap into my Lurantis to meet the Quagsire. We saw how much a Stone Edge did before, nothing to worry about. And with the Fury Cutter fast move and its fast energy gain, I will be able to get to the back-to-back Leaf Blades on this Quagsire. They do let it go, so now I'm going to commit to the back-to-back superpowers. I do get there in time, and that's great for me, because the Noctowl can't commit a shield here, as the discharge in the back will take it out. They just need to hope that the second superpower doesn't take their Noctowl out, but it does, and I'll be able to take game 2 as well. GG's. Getting into the first battle against my third opponent, I lead Stunfisk into Venusaur. Another bad lead, and I'm going to swap immediately into my Oranguru, as I have 2 better answers in the back. They counter swap their Noctowl, and I'm going to throw my foul play right away. If they decide to let this go through, which they do, I can just Confusion down the Noctowl and be able to flip switch to put my Noctowl on their Venusaur. I will have to commit a shield here, as they will get to 2 sky attacks. So I decided to shield the first one. It doesn't matter which one you do shield. Second sky attack does a decent chunk, and now here I'm just going to Confusion all the way down. I do leave with a ton of energy. I wait to see what they bring in. It is the Ninetales. So I'm going to throw off the Psychic, as I'm only going to get to 1 move, and it does the most damage. Ninetales will farm me down to 2 Fire Spins, and I'll bring in my Stunfisk against the Ninetales to meet it. I'm going to get to a Mud Bomb in time. It should be getting a shield from the Ninetales. It does. And this is 6 Fire Spins, so this is enough for an Overheat. But I'm going to let it go, because I don't expect them to throw an Overheat. It is just the Weather Ball. And they swap their Venusaur, and I counter swap it in my Noctowl. And from here, as long as I don't severely misplay it, I should be able to get the win. I do shield a Sludge Bomb, as a Sludge Bomb will do a decent chunk of damage. And again, they are going to get to 2, so I'm going to have to shield 1 anyways. They do commit their final shield on the sky attack. The Venusaur just barely outpaces me to their second Sludge Bomb. A little bit of a misplay right here. I could have overfarmed a lot and thrown a sky attack at the Venusaur to take it out, and then another sky attack at the Ninetales to take it out. But instead, by keeping my Noctowl healthy, I forced them to throw a move. And at this point, I will be able to reach a Mud Bomb to take them out, as they would have to commit to the Overheat but they don't get there in time, and I take game 1. Getting into the second battle, I lead Noctowl into Samurott. This is a pretty neutral lead, so I'm going to stay in and play it out, but they immediately swap into their Oranguru. So I'm going to load up on energy, throw a Sky Attack, get timing, not allowing them to get in any free confusion, get some good chip damage off, and then I'm going to dip into my own Samurott, as Fury Cutter energy gain will be able to significantly outpace the Oranguru with its confusion energy gain. I decide to shield their charge move and farm all the way down, knowing that they won't be able to get to another one in time. So now I have all this loaded energy to threaten whatever they bring back in. It is the Noctowl. So I'm going to throw off my first Hydro Cannon. Does some nice damage. Load up some more energy. Throw off a second Hydro Cannon. This one does some nice damage onto their Noctowl. They swap back in their Samurott. And here, I'm going to throw the Mega Horn. Would have been a safe time to bait with the Hydro Cannon, as they sort of have to respect it, which they do. And I'm going to switch to my Noctowl to just tank all this energy that the Samurott has built up. I will throw a Sky Attack on what's a CMP, gets their final shield. And from here, the Samurott just is going to load up on a ton of energy. Throw a Hydro Cannon, gets my final shield, hoping that I can get to the Sky Attack in time, as I did lose count of how much energy they had from the Fury Cutters. So they throw the back-to-back, take out my Noctowl, and at this point, I'm going to bring my Stunfisk in. I know that I can survive a Hydro Cannon, so as long as I reach a Discharge, which I will be able to, I could take it out. But I get very fortunate right there, because I throw the Discharge as soon as I get it, and they execute a Sack Swap perfectly onto their Noctowl. But I do get the refund, so I'll be able to load up on more energy, finally throw the Discharge to take it out. Samurott comes back in, Stunfisk tanks the Hydro Cannon, and I will reach the Discharge in time. If they did catch that Sack Swap onto their Noctowl, it would have been pretty difficult for me, because I would have had to return the favor with a Sack Swap onto my Samurott, but fortunately, because of the refund, I don't have to. Third game, Venusaur into Galvantula. This is a somewhat neutral lead, because I will hit for neutral with the lunges, and they will hit for neutral with the Sludge Bomb, but instead, they decide to take the lunge debuff, store all their energy, and swap into their Samurott, which has me a little confused because of the type advantage there. Galvantula just destroys Samurott with the Volt Switches, and I know that I have a decent response in the back in Stunfisk, so I'm gonna save my Galvantula, come into my Stunfisk, and throw this Discharge to take out the Samurott. They will bring back in the Venusaur, and I'm gonna throw the Mud Bomb as soon as I get it for some nice chip damage. It's gonna be a race between Vine Whip and Mud Shot. Vine Whip does win it, which means that they're gonna be able to get a move off against one of my two Pokemon. I'm going to bring in my Oranguru here, hoping that they blind throw a Sludge Bomb as they're expecting to the Galv. It is the Sludge Bomb. They're going to save the Venusaur and come in with their own Oranguru. This is a bit problematic, as they have 2 shields versus my 1 and health advantage. So I'm going to throw Foul Play, combo play into a lunge here with my Galvantula, which will be getting their final shield. And I'll load up to throw another lunge at the Oranguru. They do reach a Foul Play, causing me to give up my final shield. I just need this lunge to take out their Oranguru. If it does, I will win the game, as a single Vine Whip from the Venusaur won't take me out. But they survive on 1 HP, leading them to win this battle. Very well played to my opponent right there. A little unfortunate for us in the end. That's a good game. Getting into the first battle against my 4th opponent, I lead Samurott into Lickitung. This is a slightly negative lead, so I'm going to stay in here, throw off a Hydro Cannon, and then save swap into my Galvantula. I'm just hoping they don't bring the Shadow Ninetales this game, as that would be a hard wall. They load up on more energy, and they do bring in the Shadow Ninetales. I'm going to throw 2 more Volt Switches, fire off a Lunge Bait, hoping that they shield it, and they no-shield it. So good call by them. Fortunately, I will be able to get to another move in time, and this time I'm going to fire off the Discharge, because if they let it go, it will take them out. They do shield it, and I'm going to wait out my switch timer and bring in my Stunfisk to soak up all this energy that Ninetales has. An Overheat will do massive damage, and this is enough for an Overheat, but I'm going to call it they're baiting with the Weather Ball. They are, so it's a fantastic call by me. I'm going to load up on more energy, just trying to go for the farm down, and this is an Overheat. I'm going to let it go anyways, load up on the and double up on my Mud Bombs, and then bring in the Samurott, and they counter swap in with their Lickitung. At this point, I have to shield everything. I have to keep my Samurott alive. I'm going to load up, throw my first Hydro Cannon. Unfortunately, not in time. They reach their second Body Slam before I do. And now I'm going to overfarm here. I'm going to load up on more energy, throw my next Hydro Cannon, and just hope that whatever they have in the back, Samurott can deal with. Shadow Gliscor would be perfect. Waiting to see what they come in with here. And it is the Shadow Gliscor. This is great. All I need to do is throw off a Hydro Cannon to get their last shield, and make sure that they don't catch my second Hydro Cannon onto their Ninetales. They will be firing off a Night Slash of their own. Not enough. So I'm going to load up to the Hydro Cannon, expecting them to catch. So I read the catch, swap in my Stunfisk on their swap, fire off the first Mud Bomb to take off their Ninetales, and fire off the second Mud Bomb against their Gliscor. And this will most definitely be putting the Gliscor into Hydro Cannon range. And since I read the swap, banked it, I will be throwing this Hydro Cannon off right away and win a very close match against my opponent. Getting into the second battle, I lead my Samurott, expecting them to lead their Ninetales, and they do. So a great call by me. They counter swap into their Gliscor, and my Samurott's about to put in a lot of work. It's going to fire off 1 Hydro Cannon, get their first shield. I'm going to load up on more energy, shield their first Night Slash, as I need to keep my Samurott healthy because it does well against their team. Fire off my second Hydro Cannon as soon as I get it. It's either going to take out the Gliscor or get their second shield, and it gets their second shield, and it's on a CMP tie. At this point, I'm going to commit. I let this go, and I'm going to load up to a Hydro Cannon, which I get to just in time, and I'm going to switch to catch their third Night Slash onto my Noctowl. That's great. It's a fantastic waste of energy. They bring back in the Ninetales, and I'm going to go for the Sky Attack right away. This can do some nice damage onto the Ninetales. I'll put it in a range where second Sky Attack will take it out. I load up. I'm 1 Wing Attack away from a second Sky Attack. I know I can live a Weather Ball, so I let it through. Throw that Wing Attack, get to the Sky Attack, and this is big for me because that way by winning the mid game, I'm able to keep my Samurott with the Hydro Cannon loaded for the Gliscor. They bring in a Lickitung, and I'm just going to go for Psychics. I overfarm here by 1, which allows them to get to their move first, but that's no problem as I easily survive these Body Slams. I'm going to be firing off the Psychic right away. Psychic will do big damage. That was just a visual glitch right there. They swapped in their Gliscor immediately, so the Lickitung did take that Psychic. And I need to be careful about when I bring in my Samurott to throw off the Hydro Cannon. So I bring it in right after they throw the charge move in order to not transfer any damage, which wouldn't allow me to get my Hydro Cannon off. And since I'm able to take out the Gliscor, I load up to a Psychic as the Lickitung still not in foul play range. Tank their Power Whip, throw off the Psychic, and I'll take game 2 as well in another close one. Getting into the third battle, I lead Oranguru into Lowland Raichu. Pretty good lead for me as I will be able to hit for super effective with the foul plays. I just need to watch out for the wild charges from the Raichu as those will do a good chunk of damage. I'm going to throw a foul play as soon as I get it. It does get the first shield from the Raichu, and they load up to the back-to-back wild charges. I am going to throw out my first shield to respect it. Unfortunately, I do get baited with a Thunder Punch. I'm going to throw one more Confusion and throw my Foul Play on CMP. I'm fully expecting this one to be the wild charge, so I will commit my second shield. It's a good shield for me. And because it's CMP, I will be able to take out the Alolan Raichu if they decide to not give their last shield, which they don't, and they bring in Shadow Gliscor. Shadow Gliscor is going to load up a ton of energy, throw on CMP to my next Foul Play, which is good for them. They maximize as much energy as they can get, and they take out my Rangaroo with a Night Slash. I'm going to bring in my Samurott here, load up on some energy, and then switch to try and catch a Night Slash onto my Noctowl. A better play there would have been to switch to try and catch an Earthquake when they build up to that. So a little bit of a misplay because they're most likely not going to be throwing their Night Slash right away. And my Noctowl is met by Lickitung. This is a alright matchup for me, as I will be resisting the Licks, and the Lickitung is just going to be spamming off Body Slams while I'm able to hit for neutral with the Wing Attacks and Sky Attacks on Lickitung. Unfortunately, they do have a shield advantage, which isn't great. And Lickitung's going to be throwing a Body Slam at my Noctowl. Noctowl will easily tank this. I'm going to load up on energy and try to catch the next Body Slam into my Samurott, but I poorly time it, and this one will be taking out my Noctowl, making me lose all that energy, where the Gliscor can now swap in and one-shot my Samurott with an Earthquake. If I was able to catch the Body Slam on my Samurott there, I would have had a pretty good chance to win this match, as it could have doubled up on Sky Attacks to take out their Gliscor. Hopping to the first match against my third opponent, I lead Lurantis into Noctowl. Bad lead, and I'm going to immediately safe swap into my Galvantula, and my opponent's actually staying in here to build up some energy and then catch the lunge on their Greedent. I think they were hoping it was a discharge, but I was going to bait with the lunge anyways, because I would expect a shield to get that attack debuff. My opponent's going to be throwing off the first Body Slam. I'm going to let it go since they are debuffed. Throw 2 more Volt Switches for good timing. Throw off another lunge, of which will be taking out the green if they don't shield, and they don't. And now I'm able to get switch advantage. Rangaroo comes in. I'm going to throw the lunge as soon as I get it. This is either going to get their first shield or do massive damage. It does massive damage, and the Rangaroo is going to confusion me down. They do have a Foul Play stored, so I'm going to bring my Lurantis to tank this energy as well as get a farm down. But my opponent doesn't let that happen and swaps in their Noctowl immediately. I'm going to load up to throw off a Superpower. I'm going to let this one go. I know I'll survive a Sky Attack and still be able to get to the Superpower, which I do. My opponent lags a little bit there, but it wouldn't have made a difference because I still would have survived a single Wing Attack. I throw the Superpower, then dip, bring in my Samurott, and from here the game's pretty clear cut. With the energy gain of Hydro Cannon versus Wing Attack, my Samurott should be able to outpace the Noctowl and win the match for me. I just need to make sure I throw with good timing. First Hydro Cannon going through. The Noctowl lets it go. Second Hydro Cannon coming through will get their final shield. And the Noctowl is going to respond with a Sky Attack, which will get my final shield. They instantly swap into their Rangaroo, throw one more Confusion to try and get to the Psychic, knowing that a Foul Play won't be enough to take me out. Unfortunately for them, they don't reach it, and it just gives me more farm for my Samurott to finish off the Noctowl. Good game. Getting into the second match, I lead Galvantula into Stunfisk. This is a terrible lead for me, but I have to stay in here because I'm ABA weak to a Stunfisk lead with the Samurott in back. They're going to throw off a Mud Bomb. I'm going to let this one go. Doesn't do too much damage. Load up on even more energy. I tried to swap there into my Lurantis to catch the Mud Bomb. Not able to do it in time, but I'm going to let this go because I know I will be able to survive it. Now I'm going to swap it to my Lurantis, and it's bet by a Noctowl. Hard counter on the lead, hard counter to swap. Tough situation to be in. I'm going to throw my Superpower on what I hope is a CMP tie, so the Noctowl doesn't overfarm. It seems like it's an offset CMP a little bit, and I'm going to let this Sky Attack go through. Now I'm going to bring in my Galvantula and throw my Discharge right away, hoping that they call the lunge. But my opponent does call the lunge, allowing me to then farm down, leave with a move stored. to throw at the Stunfisk to get some nice chip damage off. Unfortunately, because I do have Samurott in the back, I'm still going to have to shield everything despite the attack debuff, because I need to keep it healthy. So discharge comes through, gets my first shield. I'm going to load up energy, throw my Hydro Cannon on what should be a CMP tie. So I'm going to hope my opponent lets it go through, but they wisely shield it, get off their next discharge, which will get my final shield. They bring in their Sirfetch'd here, and this is just game over. The Sirfetch'd will be able to outpace me to a Leaf Blade before I'm able to get to another Hydro Cannon. Plus, they still have a shield because they can easily take one. And pretty hard game for me to come back from, where my opponent just played that pretty well. So GG's. Getting into the third battle against my opponent, I lead Knockdown into Stunfisk. Third lead loss for me, and I'm going to switch instantly into my Oranguru, which is met by Greedent. So hard counter on the lead, soft countered on the swap. This isn't looking very good. I am going to let the first crunch go through, just in case they do get the defense drop, which they do, so good call by me. I'm going straight for the Psychic. If they let this go, I can make a play for switch. Psychic lands for big damage, and this gives me hope, because I'm going to try and commit some shields and confusion down. They're at the back-to-back body slams. Here comes the first one through, gets my first shield, and because they throw the second one right away and I get a confusion through, I will be able to confusion down before they get off a third body slam. So I do take switch advantage, which is massive for me, leave with all this loaded energy, but I am down 2 shields. At this point, I throw Foul Play, expecting to get their first shield, because they don't want to get hit by Psychic, but they wisely let it go and throw off a discharge before my Oranguru is able to reach another Foul Play. Because Lurantis has such a good matchup against Stunfisk, I'm going to bring it in, load up against energy, and just hope my Noctowl has a good matchup in the back. And it's the Sirfetch'd, which they have, which is fantastic. So I'm going to overfarm a ton and then swap in my Noctowl. As the Noctowl is not really threatened by any charge moves, the Sirfetch'd throws, as they're only going to be non-stab Night Slashes. First Night Slash lands, does some decent damage. Second Night Slash does some decent damage too. And from here, I'm going to farm up right before they reach another Night Slash. Throw the Sky Attack, see if they want to commit that first shield, which they do. And we'll farm down my Noctowl so they can get some damage off on my Lurantis here, the Night Slash. I make a mistake. I throw the Leaf Blade in a panic, even though I knew that the Sirfetch'd would win CMP against it. Luckily, I tapped the button like a turn too late, so it didn't register and allowed me to farm down the Sirfetch'd so I could throw back-to-back Leaf Blades at the Stunfisk and win the match. So very close game right there. Do take 2 out of 3 and move on to my next opponent. GG's. Getting into the first match against my 6th opponent. Fantastic lead for me. Lurantis into Greedent, and my opponent instantly swaps into the Heracross. Right here, I'm going to throw a Leaf Blade and then dip into my Galvantula. That way, I can guarantee switch advantage, because I will either be able to take them out with a lunge, or if they shield my charge move, I will be able to farm down in time before they're able to take me out. So lunge coming through, see what my opponent wants to do. They do commit their shield. We'll reach another Rock Blast. We'll get my final shield. I am able to farm down the Heracross, maintain switch advantage. In comes the Greedent. I throw 2 Volt Switches against versus 3 Bullet Seeds for good timing. Throw off my lunge. Does some nice damage onto the Greedent, and they will fire back with a Body Slam of their own. Because of that debuff, my Galvantula should be able to survive the Body Slam and reach another lunge. This is going to get the final shield from the Greedent if they want to keep it alive, which they do. And they swap in their Pidgeot to get a head on energy against whatever I have in the back. Luckily, I have Stunfisk, which is an extremely hard wall to Pidgeot. And I'm going to overfarm on energy here. Let them throw the first move, expecting them to just go for the Brave Bird. And they do. This will allow me to take out the Pidgeot with a single discharge as opposed to having to throw 2. I do take out the Pidgeot. In comes the Greedent, throwing a Body Slam. Stunfisk, being fairly tanky, can absorb this damage no problem. I'll fire off a Discharge in return. This will bring the Greedent really low. And I'm just going to swap into my Lurantis to finish off the match, as it can easily tank any Body Slams the Greedent throws at it. Body Slam does a good chunk, but not enough. I do reach the Leaf Blade and take this first game. Getting into the second battle, I lead Lurantis into Heracross. So same situation as the first game. I'm going to throw a Leaf Blade, then dip into my Galv and see what they want to do. First Leaf Blade coming through. They're going to let it go. In comes my Galv, and they're going to throw off a Rock Blast, getting my first shield, as that would most likely take me out. In comes Oranguru in response, and I'm going to throw off this Lunge, most likely getting their first shield. Oranguru is going to throw another Confusion, fire off the Foul Play. And here, I do commit the shield to get off another Lunge, so I can debuff their attack more, and then bring in my Lurantis and load up on energy. But I think a better play there would have just been to let it go and load up on energy by Lurantis while still having that shield, and potentially threaten whatever they have in the back. We're going to play this one out anyways. Oranguru comes in, double debuff Psychic. Still does a decent chunk of damage with Lurantis being fairly glassy. In comes a Heracross trying to farm me down. Doesn't get there in time. I do get the Leaf Blade, but will this be enough damage to take it out? Not quite. Throw 3 more counters. Are able to get to the close combat. And this is going to be game over at this point. I needed to farm the Heracross down before they reached close combat. Unfortunately, not able to do that. My opponent's going to bring in the Oranguru here, not wanting to reveal the third Pokemon that they have in the back. So I'm going to throw off the Discharge, do some nice damage. Hopefully I can get to another move in time just so I can see what they have, but I don't. So this Foul Play will be taking me out. In comes my Lurantis. My Lurantis does Fury Cutter down in time, so I do get to see what's in back, and it's a Greedent. So if I did save the shield, instead of using it on my Galvantula there at the end, I might have had a chance by loading up and possibly superpowering the Greedent or playing things differently. But either way, it would have been a long shot. So getting into third match, worst possible lead, knocked out into a Alolan Graveler. I'm going to swap into my Galvantula right away, load up on energy, and shield the first move that they throw, and return the favor with a Lunge that they can easily tank and no shield. Good move by them. At this point, I have to commit to the Galvantula. I need to take switch advantage and see what other Pokemon that they bring. My opponent realizes that, saves the Alolan Graveler, and brings in Greedent, where I'm going to get off my first Lunge. They're going to respond back by throwing a Body Slam. My Galvantula will easily take this. I'm going to throw another Lunge in return. This is going to bring the Greedent really down low if they decide to let it through. They don't, and are going to take out my Galvantula with another Body Slam. I'm going to bring in my Noctowl and just commit to the hard farm. Because the Greedent's attack is double debuff from the 2 lunges I've thrown, these Body Slams are going to do next to nothing and not even get close to threaten me and having to use a shield. So second Body Slam coming through. There's very little damage, and I'm just going to continue the farm down. I leave with almost 2 Sky Attacks stored. Want to see what they have coming in. It's the Alolan Graveler, so I throw 1 more Wing Attack. Throw the Shadow Ball to take it out, hoping that they no-shield it. They do, and in the back they have Heracross. This is fantastic news for me, as the Sky Attack will get their final shield. And I'm going to load up on energy, try and reach the next Sky Attack, but they throw on CMP. Fantastic timing, take out my Noctowl. But since I have Stunfisk in the back, I do have this game won because I can survive a close combat very easily. I just need to get to another Discharge. They throw on CMP again, so my opponent maximizing their damage and energy gain Well played, but unfortunately, close combat's not going to be enough, and I'm able to take game 3 as well. So another very close one. GG's to my opponent, and we move on to the final matches. Getting into the first match against my final opponent, and we lead Lurantis into a Alolan Graveler. Fantastic lead for me, and they instantly safe switch into their Shadow Lapras. I'm going to build up some energy, throw a Leaf Blade, which will do massive damage or get their first shield. It gets their first shield, and I'm going to respawn by swapping into my Galvantula. They're throwing off a Surf, and I have to shield it, as a Surf from a Shadow Lapras will do massive damage. Right here, I should be going for Discharge. For some reason, I accidentally tapped the lunge, realized my mistake, and tried to throw the Discharge. Unfortunately, it's too late by then, as my opponent 9 times out of 10 is going to no-shield that. And because they did no-shield it, it's going to force me to give up my final shield if I want to be able to keep switch. So back in comes the Alolan Graveler. And another mistake for me right here, instead of throwing on CMP, I throw before, allowing them to get an extra Volt Switch through and load up on more energy. So I'm just making all the wrong plays this game, and it's going to be very tough to come back from. Alolan Graveler loads up on tons of energy, swaps into their own Lurantis. And at this point, this is game over. Because I have Stunfisk in the back, and Stunfisk can't do anything against the Lurantis. These discharges are just barely going to do anything off its health. And a Leaf Blade takes out over half of Stunfisk's health. The Lurantis can just load up on tons of energy, throw 2 Leaf Blades to take out my Stunfisk, and leave with a superpower stored to then throw out my Lurantis and win the game. So second Leaf Blade coming through. Final superpower will take out my own Lurantis and lose me the game. So very poorly played by me right there. Made a lot of mistakes that ended up costing me that one. So hopefully I can turn around in the next battles. Getting into second battle, I lead Galvantula into Lapras. Pretty good matchup for me, as even though Lurantis is able to spam out these charge moves, Galvantula is able to hit for super effective damage with the lunges as well as get the attack debuff. I'm not going to be the first one to commit the shield in this matchup, so I let it go, and I'm going to fire back with a lunge. If they commit their first shield, I will do the same to their next Leaf Blade, which they do. So here comes the next Leaf Blade. I'm going to commit my first shield, and I'm going to throw another lunge at them as soon as I get it to either get their final shield or take them out. I do get their final shield, so I'm going to switch into my Lurantis right away, load up on energy, and throw my superpower on a CMP tie. Their superpower doesn't do much damage to me because they are double debuffed, and the superpower will be more than enough to take out their own Lurantis. In comes the Alolan Graveler. It's going to load up on energy, and I'm going to throw a Leaf Blade just as soon as they get to a Rock Blast. Leaf Blade does massive damage. Here my opponent makes a big mistake. They overfarm, allowing me to get to another Leaf Blade and take out their Alolan Graveler. In comes Shadow Lapras, and suddenly my situation has become very scary despite me having a shield advantage. Since they got an energy lead from farming down my Lurantis, they will outpace my Stunfisk to 2 Surfs, where the second one plus the Ice Shard damage will be enough to take me out. So I need to make a play and sack swap my Galv to catch one of the Surfs. I load up, swap, and I do catch the move. This is absolutely huge for me. My opponent smartly undercharges the Surf so they can get an extra Ice Shard, but unfortunately for them, it's not going to be enough, as I can safely shield up this move, and I will outpace to the discharge before they're able to reach their next Surf. So very nice endgame right there, as I'm narrowly able to take this one. And getting into the final match of the tournament, I lead Lurantis into Hypno. Fairly good lead for me, as I do hit super effective with these Fury Cutters, where Leaf Blades do a very nice chunk. I'm going to load up, throw a good timing right before a potential Fire Punch, and see what they want to do. They will let it go through, throw one more Confusion, and I will throw up a shield to respect the potential Fire Punch or Shadow Ball. They end up baiting with the Thunder Punch. I'm going to load up more energy and throw another Leaf Blade right before they would get to another punch. They do commit their first shield, throw another Confusion. I reach a third Leaf Blade. Lurantis to spam me. See if they want to give their final shield, which they do, and it ends up being a CMP tie. I'm fine letting this go, as I want to save shields for the back end, and I'm going to instantly swap in my Galv to get ahead on energy, and they respond with their Alolan Graveler. We get a little bit of stutter lag right there, but it was mutual as we all got the energy we should, and I'm going to be firing off this lunge. First lunge, doing big damage on the Alolan Graveler. I will shield up as I'll outpace the second move thanks to the Volt Switch advantage we had. Under tap the lunge, and this will be taking out the Alolan Graveler. From here, I just need to see if they come in with their third or back in with the Hypno. It is the Hypno, and I just need to commit to the farm down. They do get to a move, and I just need to hope this isn't the Shadow Ball. It's only a Thunder Punch. Do I live one more Confusion? I do. What's going to come in is Lurantis, so I'm going to get off this lunge and immediately swap into my Stunfisk. If I'm able to reach the discharge before they get to back-to-back Leaf Blades, I will take the game. I do get there in time, so I'll win the battle and therefore the tournament. GG's to my opponent. If you stayed with me this long, I really do appreciate you. Please drop a like and subscribe for more Pokemon Go PvP content, and comment down below. I love to hear what you have to say. So thank you, and with that, I'll catch you in the next one.